The night started like many others, loud and careless, with music that people usually hear and forget. It was a small gathering in a rented hall, the kind of place where lights feel a little too bright and the floor carries old memories of weddings, birthdays, and late-night dances. People came dressed for fun, not for meaning. They talked over each other, laughed without listening, and held drinks that slowly grew warm in their hands. In the corner of the room stood a piano. It was old, black, and slightly out of place. Most guests did not notice it. Some thought it was just decoration. Others assumed it belonged to the hall and had not been touched in years. No one imagined it would become the center of the night. The song playing on the speakers was a popular party track. Everyone knew it. It was the kind of song people danced to without thinking about the words. A song meant for noise, not feeling. A few people moved to the beat. Some nodded their heads. Others filmed short clips on their phones, planning to post them later with quick captions. She stood quietly near the piano, watching the room. She was not trying to get attention. Her clothes were simple, chosen for comfort, not style. Her hands rested at her sides, calm but tense, like they were holding something unseen. She had been invited by a friend, almost as an afterthought. No one there knew her story. No one knew what music meant to her. She listened to the party song playing loudly through cheap speakers. To everyone else, it was just background noise. To her, it was something else. She heard spaces where there were none, feelings hidden behind fast beats. She imagined the song slowed down, stripped of noise, turned into something fragile. The piano drew her closer. She did not plan to play, at least not at first. But as the song repeated, something inside her shifted. She felt that familiar pull, the one she had felt since childhood. Music had always spoken to her when words failed. It was where she placed emotions she could not explain. Her life had not been easy. She grew up in a home where silence often replaced comfort. Music became her escape. She learned to play on a piano with broken keys, practicing late at night so she would not disturb anyone. Over time, the piano became the only place where she felt fully understood. Back in the hall, the party grew louder. Someone joked about the piano, saying it probably had not been tuned in years. Another person laughed and dared anyone to try playing it. The idea floated through the air like smoke, light and careless. She hesitated. Her heart beat faster. Playing in front of people was not new to her, but this felt different. These were not listeners. They were strangers who did not come to feel anything deep. They came to forget. Still, she stepped forward. At first, no one noticed. She sat on the bench, adjusted it slightly, and placed her fingers on the keys. The piano responded with a soft, uneven sound. A few heads turned. Someone rolled their eyes, expecting a joke or a mess of random notes. She took a breath and began. The first notes were slow and quiet. They did not match the party mood at all. The speakers were turned down, almost by accident, when someone reached for the volume and paused. The room did not go silent, but it softened. She played the party song, but not the way anyone expected. She stretched the melody, letting notes hang in the air. The fast rhythm became gentle. What was once loud turned thoughtful. The song felt new, almost unfamiliar. People stopped talking. One by one, conversations faded. Phones lowered. Someone near the back felt a strange tightness in their chest and did not know why. Another person leaned against a wall, suddenly remembering something they thought they had forgotten. She kept playing, her hands moving with quiet confidence. Her face showed focus, but also something deeper. This was not about showing skill. It was about telling a story without words. The piano, old and tired, seemed to wake up under her touch. Some keys buzzed slightly, but she adjusted without breaking flow. The imperfections made it feel real, human. A few people exchanged looks. They had heard this song hundreds of times, but never like this. It no longer felt like a party song, felt like a confession. As the music filled the room, memories surfaced. Someone thought of a lost friend. Someone else remembered a time they believed in something more than routine. Even those who did not understand music felt something shift inside them. She reached the chorus, but slowed it down even more. The familiar part of the song arrived quietly, almost shy, felt honest, vulnerable. No one laughed now. No one mocked the piano. The room had changed. When the last note faded, she did not look up right away. Her fingers rested on the keys, as if saying goodbye. The silence afterward was heavy, but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that asks people to sit with their feelings. Then someone clapped. Just one person at first. Then another. Soon, the room filled with applause, not loud and wild, but steady and real. She stood slowly, unsure how to react. She was not chasing praise. She only wanted to let the music speak. People looked at her differently now, not as just another guest, but as someone who had reminded them of something important. And though the night continued, the party never felt the same again. This was only the beginning. After the applause faded, the room slowly returned to motion, but something had clearly changed. People moved differently now. They spoke in softer tones, like they were afraid to break whatever feeling had settled in the air. The music from the speakers came back on, but it felt distant, almost unimportant. She stepped away from the piano and stood near the wall, unsure of where to place herself. A few people glanced at her, then looked away, as if they were shy. Others smiled without saying anything. She felt exposed, like she had opened a window into something private. Someone finally approached her and said the playing was beautiful. The words were simple, but the voice behind them sounded sincere. She nodded and said thank you, her voice quiet. Compliments had never been easy for her to accept. Music was not something she used to impress people. It was something she used to survive. More people followed. One after another, they shared small reactions. Some said the song reminded them of someone. Others said they never realized that song could sound like that. A few admitted they felt emotional and did not know why. She listened more than she spoke. As the night went on, stories began to surface. A woman spoke about losing touch with her love for music years ago. A man admitted he once played an instrument but gave it up when life became busy. These were not things people usually shared at parties. Yet they came out naturally, like the music had unlocked something. She found herself sitting back at the piano not to perform, but to rest her hands on the keys. Someone asked if she had studied music professionally. She shook her head. She had learned mostly on her own, practicing whenever she could, wherever there was a piano. Her journey with music was never smooth. There were years when she barely touched the keys because life demanded too much from her. Work, family responsibilities, and quiet struggles filled her days. Music waited patiently in the background, never leaving, just whispering. Late that night, when most guests had left, she helped stack chairs and clean the space. The hall looked tired again like it always had, but the piano felt different. She gently closed its lid before leaving, almost like saying thank you. When she stepped outside, the air felt cool and calm. The city lights flickered in the distance. She did not feel proud or excited. She felt peaceful. Something inside her had shifted too. The next morning, her phone buzzed with messages. Someone had recorded part of her performance. The video was short and shaky, but the sound was clear enough. The message said people were asking about her. She watched the clip once and then put the phone down. She did not like watching herself play. It felt strange, like seeing a private moment from the outside. Still, she understood why it moved people. The music carried honesty. Over the next few days, the video spread quietly. Not in a loud, viral way, but steadily. People shared it with comments about feeling something real. Some wrote long messages about how it made them stop and think. She tried not to focus on it. Her routine stayed the same. She woke early, went to work, returned home tired. But something was different. Strangers started recognizing her. Someone at a cafe asked if she was the piano girl from the video. She smiled politely and said yes. Opportunities began to appear, small at first. A local cafe asked if she would play one evening. A community center invited her to perform at a small event. These were not big stages, but they felt meaningful. She struggled with doubt. Playing alone at home was one thing. Playing for people who expected something was another. She worried about disappointing them. She worried that moment at the party had been a one-time thing. Still, she said yes. The cafe was quiet, with warm lights and the smell of coffee filling the air. She sat at the piano, heart racing. When she began to play, the nerves slowly faded. The keys felt familiar, like old friends. The room listened. She realized then that it was not about the song choice or the setting. It was about honesty. When she played honestly, people felt it. After that night, she played more often. Each place was different, each audience unique. Some nights were magical. Others were awkward. But she learned from all of them. She also faced criticism. Some comments online questioned her skill. Others said she was overhyped. These words stung, but she reminded herself why she played in the first place. Music was not a competition. At home, she played late into the night again, just like she used to when she was younger. The piano became her safe place once more. One evening, she received a message from someone who had been at the original party. They wrote that her performance helped them through a difficult time. That message stayed with her longer than any praise. She realized that night had not been about shocking people. It had been about connection. And that connection was only beginning to grow. As weeks passed, life began to move faster than she expected. The small moments added up. Each performance brought new faces, new feelings, and new pressure. What once felt private now felt shared with the world, and that was both exciting and heavy. She learned that people came with expectations. Some wanted to hear the same party song slowed down again. Others wanted something emotional, something that would make them feel the way they felt when they first watched the video. She understood them, but she also felt trapped by those expectations. Music had always been her place to breathe. Now, at times, it felt like something she had to explain. One evening, after a long day, she sat at her piano at home and did not play right away. Her hands rested on her lap. She stared at the keys, feeling tired in a way that sleep could not fix. She wondered if she had lost something by letting people in. She thought about her past, about the years when no one listened. Back then, she dreamed of being heard. Now that she was, fear had joined the dream. The next performance was at a small open space in the city, where people gathered casually. Children ran around. Couples sat close together. The piano stood under soft lights. She felt nervous again, more than usual. As she began to play, a mistake slipped through. One note came out wrong. She froze for a split second. In the past, she would have stopped. Instead, she kept going. She let the mistake exist. She turned it into part of the song. Something unexpected happened. The audience leaned in closer. The music felt more real than ever. She realized that perfection was not what moved people. It was honesty. After the show, she sat alone for a while, listening to the quiet hum of the city. She felt lighter. The fear loosened its grip. Messages continued to arrive online. Some were kind. Some were careless. One message stood out. It said her music made the sender feel less alone. That single sentence stayed with her. She started visiting places she normally avoided. Old community halls, schools, and care centers invited her to play. These places did not promise fame or money. They offered something else. At one care center, she played for people who did not speak much. Some closed their eyes. Some tapped their fingers slowly. One person whispered that the music reminded them of home. She felt her throat tighten. Afterward, she sat quietly, holding back tears. She understood then that music could carry people back to moments they thought were gone forever. Not every day was meaningful like that. Some days felt empty. She doubted herself again. She questioned if she was doing enough or too much. Balance was hard to find. She also had to face practical challenges. Work hours changed. Sleep became irregular. Friends asked why she was always tired. She smiled and said she was busy, but inside she felt stretched thin. One afternoon, she almost said no to another invitation. She felt worn out, but something told her to go. The venue was simple. The piano was out of tune. She adjusted as best as she could. When she started playing, she noticed a young listener sitting on the floor, watching her hands closely. After the performance, the listener approached and asked how long it took to learn. She answered honestly, "Years. Practice. Patience." The listener nodded, eyes wide, and said they wanted to learn too. That moment stayed with her long after she left. She realized her journey was no longer just about her own healing. It was quietly touching others, shaping their choices in ways she might never fully see. Still, the pressure did not disappear. One night, reading comments online, doubt crept back in. She wondered if she was living up to the image people had created of her. She closed her phone and turned to the piano. She played without recording, without thinking about who might hear. Just sound and silence. The music reminded her why she started. Not for attention, not for praise, but because it made life make sense. Slowly, she learned to protect that reason. She limited what she shared. She chose performances carefully. She learned to say no without guilt. Her music grew deeper, less about impressing, more about connecting. And though she did not realize it yet, all these small choices were preparing her for something much bigger ahead. The attention kept growing, even when she tried to keep her world small. Invitations came from places she never imagined. Some were exciting. Some felt overwhelming. She learned to pause before answering, listening to her own feelings instead of the noise around her. One message arrived from a local organizer planning a large public event. It was not a fancy concert hall, but it was much bigger than anything she had done before. The crowd would be mixed. Some would come to listen. Others would come out of curiosity. The message said her piano version of the party song had reached many people and they wanted that feeling live. She stared at the screen for a long time. This was the kind of moment people dream about, yet fear often walks beside dreams. She worried about the size of the crowd. She worried about the expectations. She worried about losing herself on a bigger stage. That night, she could not sleep. She replayed her journey in her mind. The quiet childhood nights with a broken piano. The party where no one expected anything. The first applause that felt real. The small rooms filled with honest silence. By morning, she knew her answer. She agreed. Preparation changed everything. She practiced with focus but also with care. She did not want to polish the music until it lost its soul. She wanted it to stay human. She chose songs that mattered to her, not just ones people requested. Some days, doubt returned. She asked herself if she was ready. Other days, she felt calm and steady. She reminded herself that she did not need to prove anything. She only needed to be honest. The day of the event arrived quietly. The sky was clear. The air felt still. When she reached the venue, she saw the stage for the first time. It looked large and empty, waiting. She sat alone near the piano before the crowd arrived. She placed her hands on the keys without playing. She breathed slowly. This piano was newer, smoother than the old one at the party. Still, she treated it gently, like a conversation, not a command. As people filled the space, a low hum of voices rose. She could feel the energy building. She stayed calm on the outside, though her heart beat fast. When it was time, she walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, but she did not look directly at the crowd. She focused on the piano. The bench felt solid beneath her. She began with a simple piece, something soft to settle the room. Slowly, the noise faded. People leaned forward. The space changed. Then came the moment everyone expected. She started the familiar party song, but again, not the way anyone imagined. This time, she did not only slow it down. She reshaped it. She let pauses speak. She let silence breathe. The melody carried weight. The crowd listened closely. Some recognized the tune and smiled. Others closed their eyes. The music traveled gently, touching different people in different ways. Halfway through, she felt something rare. She was no longer thinking about the crowd or the stage. She was simply playing. When the final note faded, the silence lasted longer than she expected. Then the applause rose, strong and steady. It filled the space and wrapped around her. She stood and bowed slightly, feeling grateful, not proud. After the performance, people waited to speak with her. Some shared short compliments. Others shared stories. One person said they never liked that party song before, but now it meant something. Later that evening, she sat alone again, away from the noise. She felt tired, but peaceful. She had faced something big without losing herself. Still, not everything felt perfect. The next day, she saw clips of the performance online. Some comments praised her. Others compared her to musicians she had never tried to be like. The comparisons bothered her more than criticism. She realized how easy it was for others to shape a story around her. She did not want to become an idea instead of a person. So she made a choice. She slowed down. She took a break from performing. She returned to playing alone. She spent time listening to music without thinking about audiences. During this quiet period, she reflected deeply. She understood that growth did not always mean more exposure. Sometimes it meant more honesty. One afternoon, she received a handwritten letter. It was from someone who attended the big event. The letter described how the music helped them feel calm during a difficult moment in their life. No fame, no excitement, just gratitude. That letter mattered more than any number on a screen. She placed it near her piano at home. As weeks passed, her relationship with music settled into something healthier. She no longer chased moments. She allowed them to come. She began planning something different. Not a big event. Not a viral moment. Something smaller, more personal. She wanted to create a space where people could listen without expectation. And with that quiet intention, a new chapter slowly began to take shape. The idea grew slowly, like something fragile that needed time. She did not rush it. She spent weeks thinking about what kind of space she wanted to create. Not a stage where people came to be impressed, but a room where they came to feel safe listening. She found a small place on the edge of the city. It was quiet, with wooden floors that carried sound gently. The piano there was not perfect, but it was warm. The room could only hold a small number of people, which felt right. She invited people quietly. No big announcements. No pressure. Just a message that said they were welcome to listen. On the evening of the gathering, rain tapped softly against the windows. People arrived slowly, shaking off umbrellas, speaking in low voices. Some recognized her from videos. Others had no idea who she was. Everyone took a seat without being told. She waited until the room settled. There was no rush. When she sat at the piano, she did not introduce herself. She simply placed her hands on the keys and began to play. The music was gentle, not dramatic, not loud. It flowed naturally like conversation. Each song felt like a small story. Some were familiar melodies reshaped. Others were simple tunes born in quiet moments. She played the party song again, but only briefly. It appeared softly, almost hidden, then faded. It felt like a memory rather than a performance. People listened deeply. No phones were raised. No one whispered. The room breathed together. As she played, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Freedom. No expectations. No pressure to shock or surprise. Just connection. When the music ended, there was no loud applause. Instead, people sat quietly for a moment. Then a few clapped gently. Others simply smiled. Afterward, people stayed. They talked in small groups. Some approached her and shared how the music made them feel calm, or understood, or less alone. She listened carefully, responding with kindness, not distance. One person said they never realized how much silence mattered until that night. Another said they forgot what it felt like to truly listen. She packed up slowly when the room emptied. She did not feel tired. She felt full. Over time, she repeated these gatherings. Always small, always honest. Sometimes the room was full. Sometimes only a few people came. Both felt equally meaningful. She returned to her routine outside of music too. Work, rest, ordinary days. Music no longer replaced life. It lived alongside it. The videos online faded from attention, but something deeper remained. Messages still arrived from time to time. Some from people who had attended the gatherings. Others from strangers who found old clips late at night. She no longer measured her worth by numbers or reactions. She measured it by how she felt when she played. One evening, while practicing alone, she paused and smiled. She realized she was no longer chasing moments from the past. She was present. She thought back to that first night at the party. The careless laughter. The old piano. The moment she almost did not sit down. So much had changed, yet the reason she played stayed the same. Music was still her way of speaking when words fell short. She began teaching a few people quietly, not as a professional, but as someone who understood struggle. She taught them patience more than technique. She told them mistakes were part of the sound. Watching others find their own relationship with music felt just as meaningful as performing. Sometimes, she played the party song alone and laughed softly at how far it had carried her. What once felt empty now held layers of memory. She learned that meaning is not fixed. It is shaped by who touches it. Years from now, people might forget her name or her face. But that did not matter. What mattered was that, for a moment, music had helped people feel seen. On quiet nights, she still played by herself, lights low, window open. The city hummed outside. Life moved on. She was no longer afraid of being heard or unheard. She had found her balance. And that was enough.